As an officer, it's my job to look out for you.
Resident Evil Retrospective.
Announced in 1996 at Tokyo Game Show, production on Resident Evil 2 started immediately after the first was a certified success. Hideki Kamiya, a system planner for the first Resident Evil, stepped up to direct the second. The sequel was to pick up where the first left off, and the gameplay showcased two new characters, Leon Kennedy and Elza Walker. Resident Evil 2 was scheduled for release near the end of 1997. Unfortunately, the closer the game neared to completion, the more producer Shinji Mikami felt it was too similar to the one they needed to surpass. At 3/4 of the way into the development process, Capcom Production Studio 4 was asked to go back to the drawing board. The first pixels to hit the cutting room floor made up the game's female protagonist, Elza. The University of Raccoon City student was transformed into Chris Redfield's sister, Claire. Both women came to the city in search of a loved one and had an affinity for motorcycles. This midpoint between the original and the sequel was nicknamed Resident Evil 1.5, and online petitions have been formed in hopes of its eventual release. This wouldn't be the last time Mikami completely scrapped a near-complete Resident Evil to start again. This speed bump in the game's creation would actually become standard operating procedure for the franchise, as every future installment would also release promotional material showing scenes unavailable in the final product. After the game was reconstructed, horror icon George Romero directed 2 television spots to promote it. The real Resident Evil 2 finally reached stores on January 21st, 1998.
The case was apparently closed, but the Umbrella Corporation's experiments were far from finished.
The second chapter opened 2 months after Alpha Teams escaped from the mansion. The surviving STARS members tried to warn their neighbors, but with all the evidence having gone up in smoke, Raccoon City refused to listen until it was too late. With most of the city dead or deserted, Leon and Claire arrived without the slightest suspicion of the danger they were in. Fate brought them together, and an out-of-control trucker forced them apart. After a mad dash through the carnage-filled streets, they both arrived safely at the Raccoon City Police Department.
You must be the new guy, Leon. Sorry, but it looks like your party has been canceled.
Unlike Resident Evil 1, there were some survivors alive in the building. Gun store owner Robert Kendo was there to meet you almost immediately, but instead of leaving with you, as he was intended to in the scrapped version, Kendo stood a little too close to the window. They also met Officer Marvin Branagh, a fellow cop in bad shape, Ben Bertolucci, a freelance reporter that locked himself in the RCPD prison, and the seductive Ada Wong, a devoted lover looking for her lost boyfriend. Claire chased after a distressed child named Sherry Birkin, and witnessed the darker side of Police Chief Brian Irons. Ada and Sherry were both playable for a short section of each scenario.
My mom called and told me to go to the police station because it was too dangerous to stay at home.
Ada and Sherry also had a secret. Sherry was the daughter of William and Annette Birkin, scientists working with yet another horrible idea called the G-Virus. It had a stronger cellular impact than the T-Virus, but also created an evil twice as difficult to destroy. William was gunned down trying to protect his research and gave himself a G-shot before passing on. His worsening mutation haunted players throughout the game, and alternate scenarios witnessed previously unseen stages of the G-Virus's curse.
I told you, it's my job to look after you.
But you'll be in danger if you stay with me.
Ada had been dating a scientist named John, true, but she was not there to save him. Once Leon risked life and limb to recover the G-Virus, Secret Agent Ada tried to steal it. The accident-prone Annette or Mr. X caught up with the two of them and forced Leon to say goodbye.
Leon, it's over.
The number 2 was a common thread throughout the game. Like Resident Evil 1, there were 2 heroes, and each had another exclusive character to interact with. The game came on 2 discs, and there were 2 ways to play each campaign. Starting with either character began Scenario A, and after the credits rolled, you could load up the other survivor to experience Scenario B. A and B were supposedly happening at the same time, so numerous events crossed over each other, and choices character number 1 made had lasting effects on number 2.
You murdered my husband. I know what you're looking for. This is my husband's legacy.
The 2 AB plotlines had several exclusive moments, leaving players to wonder which one actually happened. It was later suggested by Capcom that the Claire A, Leon B scenario was the official plotline, in which Sherry became infected with the G-Virus, and Claire created the only known antidote. This is curious because Leon's campaign was labeled as Disc 1, prompting most to play the non-canon version first without realizing it. Both endings follow the 3 escapists as they narrowly dodged 2 self-destruct sequences and Birkin's final form. Players eager to pump more lead into the undead got plenty of slumbering targets to choose from in Resident Evil 2. From police officers to civilians, their appearance varied much more than the shambling collection from RE1, including a few that were unmistakably female. And many more of them could fill the screen at once. Dogs, crows, and spiders returned, roaches scattered out of sewer openings, walking plants lashed out with vines and acid, and hunters were replaced by more leaping and swiping nasties called lickers. A giant moth hid in one room spewing offspring while a seemingly indestructible crocodile patrolled the underground wastes. To even the odds, the pistol, shotgun, and magnum got collectible upgrades. New means of zombie protection included a multi-directional crossbow, charged-up spark shot, and submachine gun. Even with all this firepower, some players chose to emphatically avoid Scenario B's reoccurring menace, Mr. X. The Umbrella product was dropped into the police department like a bomb with legs and kept reappearing in the most awkward places. After a dip in a lava bath, X heard the countdown clock and dropped in to stop Claire or Leon's train from departing. Similar to the helipad standoff from RE1, a rocket launcher was thrown into play at the very last moment by one of 2 shadowy female accomplices.
Game over.
The PlayStation version of Resident Evil 2 has sold almost 5 million units. It's the best-selling PS1 game in the series. Obvious bonuses like more campaigns, weapons, enemies, bosses, and puzzles made it more valuable at first glance, but it also had several aesthetic improvements. Items now auto-combined when moving them in and out of the storage bin, and characters became visibly injured when their health depleted. A special key also became available for added costumes thanks to Brad Vickers, the helicopter pilot from the first game. An unlockable minigame called The Fourth Survivor appeared after several endings that guided an Umbrella Special Forces unit member named Hunk through the aftermath of William Birkin's rage. Even more diligence unlocked a spoof of the mode called Tofu Survivor, proving the developers of this gore fest at least had a sense of humor. RE2 has been ported many times, but never remade. The DualShock edition added analog support and a mode called Extreme Battle. The timed exercise could be run with 4 available characters, including an updated model of Chris Redfield, and was completed by recovering bombs scattered around the station. The PC version included a gallery of models and concept art. A similar edition came out for the Nintendo GameCube in 2006, and the PlayStation Network updated it at the end of 2007.
You'll end up just like all the others.
Amazingly, the full-motion video sequences and pre-rendered backgrounds met the cart-based medium of the Nintendo 64 in 2000. The corpse of a hunter was added to one of the last laboratory rooms, extra documents called EX files shed more light on the connections with later sequels, and you could change the color of the blood to blue or green. Despite the raw compression of the animated shorts and the muddy-looking environments, the character models lacked the blocky edges from prior entries, including the PC. This made the characters stand out a little bit more, but the project as a whole was a remarkable achievement for the limited storage capacity available. Resident Evil 2 didn't reinvent the original, but it blew people away. Some still consider it the best of the series. Completing both dual campaigns took a minimum of 10 hours, and an A or B ranking with a record finish awarded a rocket launcher, machine gun, or Gatling gun, taunting you to mow the masses down one last time. A third Biohazard had to be on its way. The story wasn't over. Raccoon City was still standing. Resident Evil 3 was originally supposed to be 2 other games. The first was a next-gen demon-slaying action slasher directed by Hideki Kamiya and produced by Shinji Mikami. Some of the project's early castle-hunting scout work went on to inspire Spain in Resident Evil 4. Capcom viewed it as a radical departure from the series and decided to create a brand new franchise.
Devil May Cry.
The second title, dubbed RE3, was promoted as a Sega Dreamcast exclusive, and the continuation of the Claire and Chris Redfield plotline. That project wasn't finished till the beginning of the next century, leaving a side story being developed for the PS1 to fill in the production slot. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis was unleashed in Japan on September 22, 1999. Unlike the first 2 survival stories, Resident Evil 3 offered only one playable character from the outset, Jill Valentine. Taking place before and eventually after Resident Evil 2, the game covered the frantic exit of the final STARS member from Raccoon City. One other character, an Umbrella operative named Carlos Oliveira, was playable for a short period, but the rest of the game was spent in Jill's turquoise tube top. Carlos was a member of the Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service, in other words, the hired guns sent in to clean up the rich guy's mess. Having no direct ties to the cause of the epidemic, Jill decided to trust them. The ruthless Nikolai ran the outfit, with soldiers Mikhail, Murphy, and Tyrell at his mercy. The UBCS got picked off one by one, and Jill's decisions led the guilty Nikolai to either a narrow escape or an untimely death.
Listen. He's coming for us. We're both gonna die. He's after STARS members. There's no escape.
Despite Valentine's buxom star power, another face emerged as the game's most memorable character. The Nemesis project was developed by Umbrella to create a tyrant with a brain, a bioorganic weapon that could carry out complex missions and make rational judgments. Umbrella let the beast loose amidst the walking terror of their former experiments with one objective: kill every STARS member standing in its way. Like Mr. X before him, Nemesis was a loose cannon. He would make himself seen at the absolute worst of times, and even loading doors couldn't save you. Once the camera moved away from the spot you entered through, he would come tearing into the room in full stride. Defeating him only bought you time, nothing else. Upgrades for your handgun and shotgun can only be obtained from him during the game's brand new hard mode. Nemesis wasn't the only thing keeping players on their toes, though. 10 unexpected choices were thrown at you throughout the 2 to 5 hour campaign. Thankfully, none of them were fatal, but they opened alternate routes and made subtle differences in how the cinemas, including the 2 endings, played out. The only decision Jill couldn't make was whether or not to save the city. On an order that had to be approved by the president, Raccoon City became a memory. Jill and Carlos witnessed the blast from a minimal safe distance. Hunters made a glorious comeback in RE3, including a reddish mutated version and aquatic menaces that look like giant frogs. Crawl-anywhere insectoids that appeared to be cousins to the Chimera also scavenged the streets for survivors. With each new threat, the arsenal continued to grow, adding assault rifles and freeze rounds for the grenade launcher. Ammo could now be specially mixed and enhanced by the player, combining 3 different grades of ammo powder. If the powder and the ammo ran out, Jill and Carlos could perform quick dodges, and finally, 180-degree turns. Beating the game unlocked a key to the boutique, providing access to 2 additional costumes: Jill's digs from RE1 and Regina's outfit from Capcom's Dino Crisis. One run-through also opened up the Mercenaries' Operation Mad Jackal, another survive-in-time minigame with the 3 lead UBCS commandos selectable. Each had a different loadout, but all 3 had to make it back to the safe house in 2 minutes to receive a treat from former Police Chief Irons. Picking off targets awarded more time, and scoring higher netted more cash to purchase killer weapons like the Gatling gun and rocket launcher. Resident Evil 3 sold 3.5 million copies, which, while a satisfying number, came up short of its predecessor. It was later ported to the Sega Dreamcast, PC, and Nintendo GameCube with added costumes and crisper visuals. Some found the events leading to Raccoon City's Big Bang trivial, while others have since honored the titular monster as one of the most memorable villains in all of gaming. The third survival horror adventure also marked the end of the PlayStation generation. Capcom may have coined survival horror, but the genre was no longer exclusive to Sony machines. The viral outbreak would embrace new stories and systems. In Episode 3, we go back to the beginning. The Dreamcast and the GameCube host the next 2 chapters of Resident Evil, documenting the secrets kept in the house Umbrella built, and the fatal first steps of STARS.